Fair warning, this will probably be me going off into a very long monologue. Hey you! Welcome back to my channel. My name is Hananya, and today I am going to answer why I started writing. Yesterday I finished editing the AuthorTube newbie tag video, and I realized that one of the questions I answered, but I wasn't very happy with the answer. So I wanted to just make a video completely about this because the question was, why did you start writing? And honestly, the answer was a little bit dramatic and I felt like I should explain a little bit more. So I grabbed myself a coffee and we're going to talk about this because I feel like the answer I gave made it sound as if I had like a really dramatic life, which is not really true. Sure, I have tons of things that happened, but we all do probably, and I'm not gonna go into all of them, but I figured I would explain a little bit more on why I started writing. I ended up mentioning that I made up stories in my head to make my life seem better than it was, and I felt that that was a very dramatic answer, and my life really wasn't that bad. So I kind of want to go back on that and say, yes, it was a way for me to kind of think of happy thoughts and happy stories. So for me, it started in elementary school, and one of the reasons why I started writing down my thoughts was I was bullied a lot and I also struggled with sleeping. I had quite a lot of nightmares when I was younger, and one of the ways to help me sleep was something my mom told me, and she said, just make up a story in your head and, sleep that way. Because I was having trouble falling asleep and then also waking up quite a lot with nightmares. So what I ended up doing is coming up with stories that, made sense in my head, I guess, and just seemed like a happy life and something fun and light so that it wouldn't scare me when I had my nightmares. And it would kind of calm me down when I had my nightmares. So that's one of the reasons I started writing them down, because the stories I came up with in my head turned out to be much more elaborate than just a simple kid story, I think. And also when I would wake up in the middle of the night, I would write down some of my dreams as well, so that I could remember what I had dreamed or also what had scared me, so that I could later kind of debunk the whole scary part of it, because I knew that in the end it wasn't something that was really gonna happen, and my thoughts were just crazy child thoughts, I guess. And the dreams didn't make sense, like the nightmares a lot of the time would be situations that would never happen in real life. So when I would write them down, it would help me kind of see that later when I woke up again in the morning. So I ended up putting a notepad or a notebook next to my bed when I was younger, and just whenever I would wake up or whenever I was trying to fall asleep, I would sometimes write down what I was thinking of or the stories that I was coming up with. And that was, I think, maybe the start of what writing nowadays would mean for me, I guess. Thinking back on it, I probably wouldn't have written a full story. It was probably just like some ideas or thoughts and stuff like that. So maybe it was more of a journal than really writing a novel. But I remember that that was something that I did when I was younger, and part of it was because of the nightmares, but also because of the bullying and not being able to sleep or not wanting to get out of bed sometimes, and just a lot of different reasons, I guess. Coming up with stories that seemed happy when I was not always very happy going to school, because I didn't like being there, when people would always call me names or not talk to me and, deliberately walk away from me. But I think in general, my elementary school life was very much a bullied life, I guess. So then it helped me to write down thoughts. So I went from elementary school, which was me writing down my thoughts and dreams into a notebook, and sometimes story ideas that I would have that made me feel happier sometimes, to high school, where the bullying didn't stop, but I got a laptop from my parents because I was able to use it during classes due to my dyslexia. So I had that advantage, and that also gave me the perfect opportunity to start writing down my ideas onto a word processing software. I used Word, which I think a lot of people use, right? The laptop that my parents bought me when I went to high school helped me to write down my story ideas much more elaborately. So I would write down everything that I wanted, right? You would make up a story idea, or you would write a fan fiction, which I think, I mean, a lot of people have done, right? A lot of us have probably at some point written fan fiction. If not, good for you. But yeah, so I wrote down story ideas and fan fiction and that kind of stuff when I finally had a laptop of my own, and I could use that for my school stuff, but also my writing stuff, which is, I think, probably the first time I really started writing. A lot of those stories that I wrote down on that laptop have been lost. I think I put them on a thumb drive a lot of the time, which was something that I used for all of my schoolwork so that I could print off everything at school as well. If I needed to print out an assignment, I would always put it on a thumb drive. But that's also a way that I lost a lot of the things I wrote down when I was in high school. A lot of the stories I wrote have vanished. I guess that was my own fault for not backing them up. I thought putting them on a thumb drive was me backing them up so that if my computer crashed or my laptop crashed, I would still have those on the thumb drive. But somehow I made my thumb drive crash before I ever made my laptop crash. I still don't know how, but my thumb drive crashed a couple times, and I had a hard drive at some point that I also logged around, and that probably crashed or fell down, or I don't know. At least now with the digital age, I guess, I have gotten a lot better with backing up all of my work. I think most of my stuff is now on Dropbox or on Google Docs instead of just on my computer or on a hard drive. I guess in a way, stories have always helped me cope with things that were happening in my life. A lot of things for me happened in high school, I think. Not like a dramatic amount of things to deal with, and I don't want to say that my life was hard, because it really wasn't. I was very lucky with all of my life and still am. I'm very privileged, and I know that. I just know that I had a tough time kind of coping sometimes with everything going on, and stories always helped me with that, and kind of finding something different to focus on that, you know, made me happier, and that's a big part of why I started writing. So let's move on to college days and after. So I went to college for media and entertainment management, so it made sense for me to consume media and look at story ideas and kind of tear them apart and analyze the way movies were structured and stuff like that. So I feel that helped with me writing. Although part of the college or university, I never know what to call it. It was a university. It called itself a university. I have a bachelor's degree, so you tell me if that's a university or a college. Although in my studies, we had 3 different categories or different paths to go towards, I didn't choose the one that was creative. In a way, obviously every one of them is creative, but there was one that was specifically for content creation and one for marketing, and then the one that I did was production. For the production one, we created a short movie, which we did come up with ourselves. We came up with a story, but with the content creation, I remember they had to kind of hand in 100 different ideas in like a week, I think, and that sounded way too overwhelming for me. Even though I have a lot of story ideas now, I don't think I could have pulled off so many ideas. Like, maybe that would help me brainstorm some different approaches, but I didn't like that at the time, so I went with production and actually created a short film instead. So, funny story. I remember writing in college as I was traveling back and forth between college and my hometown on the bus, and just time spent waiting for classes, or if I missed my train or my bus, I would have to wait sometimes, and I would pull out my laptop and just write. I would also obviously study, but sometimes you just want to write things down instead of studying, I guess. I still passed everything fine, so nothing to worry about. It wasn't compromising my studying life, but I used a lot of the time I was traveling to do creative things and also consume media, you know. But yeah, a lot of the times I would write, because when I was studying, the whole you have internet everywhere thing wasn't a thing. Whenever we would cross the border, because I would cross technically a border when I was traveling from my hometown to my school, which was in the same country, but we would travel through a different country to get there. Essentially what would happen is if I crossed the border and I would use my internet, I'd have to pay more. So I decided I wasn't going to use my internet when I was on the bus. So that gave me quite some time to just relax and either like do some schoolwork or write down story ideas. And I usually ended up doing both. So I would do work for school a lot of times. I would have my books with me and I would write down some things, but sometimes that can get hard when you're trying to write on the bus, but by hand at least. So I started writing down things on my laptop, also for school, but also just me writing stories, because why not? So I think for me, writing has always been something that was fun and something that I could do with my free time. Moving on to a time that's more recent, I guess, about 2.5 years ago, around the time I discovered AuthorTube, I was actually in a burnout from work, and that is something that really propelled also my love for writing more again, because I kind of lost it a little bit after college because I was focusing on career things and I was working so hard that I barely felt like I had time to really come up with anything creative or really do a lot of the writing or do anything towards that. I was always very tired after work and I just wanted to not do anything. And I would sometimes take my work home in the early stages of my career, I guess. So I ended up not writing. I started writing when I was on my burnout because that was something that made me happy and that was something that gave me energy, and I kind of found my love for writing back when I was on my burnout. AuthorTube helped me to really get motivated to start taking my writing a lot more seriously. Before I got my burnout already, in that summer just before it, I downloaded Scrivener, purchased Scrivener. So when I found AuthorTube and I started watching those videos, I really got into the flow of also wanting to write, setting goals for myself, and actually taking this seriously because this was something that I wanted to do. And obviously, like, I was still in a burnout from work, but writing was really something that I enjoyed doing. And I wasn't writing tons of words a day, but talking to a psychologist and also a career coach at some point helped me realize that writing was really something that I loved doing and that I shouldn't give that up, because in a way it is also something to process your thoughts in. Because what I do sometimes is if I feel upset, I would write down those feelings in like my character and like have my character be upset about something and channel what I was feeling into what my character is supposed to feel in the story, which is a big reason why I jump around in stories sometimes. Around that time, I started writing the book I'm currently working on, and I wrote that in a couple of months, I would say. I started writing probably in November, and I finished it in February. And it's the first book I actually finished the first draft of. So I've never done that before because I have a lot of ideas and I just write them down. I get about 20 to 50K in, and then I come up with a different idea that I want to work on. And I still go back to those stories every once in a while, but they just exist, and I don't know if I ever tend to finish them in a way that I want to publish. But a lot of these story ideas are just for me, maybe, you know. Jumping forward to now, where I am obviously on AuthorTube, taking it so much more seriously than I did a couple years ago. And I've decided that this is what I want to do. So I'm going to do a lot more work towards book writing and building my author platform, I guess, in a way. So I've really settled on me wanting to be a writer, which I guess I already am by writing every time that I do write. But I want to become a published author. There, I've said it. I want to become a published author. I don't know how I'm going to get there yet, but I know that I am going to get there. I'm not giving up on my dream this time, and this is what I want to do. I hope that at some point I can turn what time I spend on writing right now, which I feel is more part-time, considered I have a full-time job. But hopefully at some point, maybe I can turn those tables around and write a lot more than I am actually working. I don't know if I could ever fully abandon my work just because I need to pay my bills, but if I could, that would be my all-time dream, I guess. Well, there you have it, the full story of why I started writing, I guess. I probably still forgot some reasons, but this is probably what it comes down to if I have to make a video out of it, which I don't have to, but I did anyway. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed kind of getting to know my backstory, I guess, into why I started writing in more detail, because I just felt like I needed to explain myself a little bit better. So yeah, thank you for watching, and if you did enjoy the video, I hope you stick around to watch more of me in the future. So with that, I will say see you next time. Fun fact, it's currently, what day is it? It's the 14th of March, and I just filmed my second YouTube video. Let's do that again. This is so weird. No, this is so awkward. And I feel like my shot is not pretty. I still don't like the way my shot is set up. Probably gonna cut that part out, but that's fine. So, funny story.